Three lawyers that represented Carrie Lake in her election challenge lawsuits in the state of Arizona, well, they are now, thanks to a ruling from the Arizona Supreme Court Disciplinary Panel, going to face actions from the state bar of the state of Arizona. So here's what happened. The Arizona State Supreme Court, their disciplinary panel, which is a separate group that they set up to look at what's going on, make sure lawyers are operating within the parameters of the law. And they finally, after investigating, decided that the claims that Kerry Lake's lawyers made, because they claimed that these were statements of fact, and that is the key here. The statements of fact that they made were totally false, pretty much fabricated, and therefore the state bar has no choice but to launch these disciplinary hearings into what to do about these lawyers. Now, let me read you this. This is from Raw Story. Arizona Supreme Court Attorney Disciplinary Panel on December 8th found probable cause to take formal action against Brian Blem, a Scottsdale divorce lawyer, and Kurt Olson, an employment attorney from Washington, D.C., who represented Lake in her attempt to overturn the results of the election. Another Lake attorney, Andrew Parker, who, along with Olson, represented Lake and former Secretary of State candidate Mark Finchem in a 2022 lawsuit during which they challenged the use of ballot tabulating machines, was also the subject of a probable cause order. The probable cause order clears the way for the state bar to file formal complaints against the trio, which would be overseen by a judge who handles attorney disciplinary matters. Now, Blem and Olson had already been ordered, way back, and I talked about it at the time, to pay $2,000 in sanctions for filing these frivolous lawsuits. But here's the key here. In the lawsuit, they said that it was a statement of fact that 35,000 ballots were improperly inserted into the final vote count in Arizona, which of course would have given Kerry Lake the victory. But they said it was a fact that 35,000 ballots were inserted, and then repeatedly during appeal, during lawsuit, appeal of that, new lawsuit, everything else, failed to show any evidence suggesting that any of that ever happened. So the disciplinary panel at the Supreme Court said, you made this claim as a statement of fact, and then you didn't back it up. So you lied in court. Lawyers are not allowed to lie in court, just like the defendants, just like the plaintiffs. The lawyers can also not make false statements of fact. So because they did that, according to the disciplinary panel, they now have probable cause to believe that, something happened. We got to look into this. There's also another one that Blem is facing, because Blem claimed in a post on social media on Twitter, I gotta read this. Again from Raw Story. On August 12th, he accused the CIA and Department of Justice of conspiring to coerce the Arizona Supreme Court into creating a misinformation board. The purpose of that board, he contended, was to deter attorneys from bringing legitimate election fraud claims and ultimately prevent Donald Trump from being reelected president in 2020. He says he has proof of this claim, but he can't show us the proof because, he may need it for a future lawsuit. That's what he said. That's what he's told the court. I can totally show you that the CIA and the DOJ were involved in this. But, I don't want to show you now. I'm going to use it later on in another lawsuit, even though I could lose my license if I don't show it to you. He's not showing it because he's saving it. He's not showing it because it doesn't exist. That's what we're dealing with here. Now, the only thing about this story that bothers me is that nothing happens to Kerry Lake. Now, I get that these lawyers should have just laughed at her when she came to their office or called up their offices saying, hey, would you do this? So yes, they do share a huge part of the blame for going along with it. But they wouldn't have done it if she hadn't hired them to do it. So why does she get off? That's not okay. The plaintiff needs to also face some of these disciplinary actions. I know they can't take her law license away because she doesn't have one, but I think at this point, severe sanctions against her for doing this in the first place, she should face discipline just like the lawyers are going to face.